Welcome to Extra Takes, hosted by Northland Church Senior Pastor Dr. Joshua Laxton. Join us each week as Pastor Josh reveals the rest of the story behind his sermons. We'll discuss how those who follow Christ can live out a biblical vision for the church in our world today.
Well, hello, Northland family and friends. Hey, welcome to another episode of Extra Takes. I'm your co-host, PJ, along with the one and only Matt Shiles. And so here we are. It's another week, another weekend down. What do you got for us?
The one and only. I like that.
Is there another Matt Shiles? There is another Josh Laxton out there.
He's a professional fisherman.
Who?
Matt Shiles.
Matt Shiles, really? I guess he takes his fish off the hook. Somebody sent me a video.
I'll take my fish off the hook. We know you don't.
So somebody sent me a video. This is amazing. Somebody sent me a video of this new gadget.
Oh no! Oh boy!
Where did he send it?
I don't even want to know.
Yeah, a new gadget of. I thought he sent it to me on Facebook.
I don't approve.
And so I thought, man, I can now go fishing. Or maybe it was Instagram. Oh, it was Instagram. Okay, yeah, here it is. Yeah, here it is, right here.
All right.
That's the new, yeah. See,
it's this like claw-like grabber.
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to show it to you so you can zoom in.
It doesn't count.
You can zoom in on the camera. Like you zoom in on YouTube if you're here. Like, yeah. That's the one right there. All right, so I could go fishing now.
I don't approve. That's the only thing that's keeping you from fishing.
That's it.
No way.
I don't like touching fish.
I'm not sure you have the patience for fishing.
I'm older now. Yeah, I have the patience. I can sit there all day.
Can you?
Oh, I mean, yeah. If I'm just relaxing, I know how to relax. Now, when I relax, I know how to relax. You got to get me to. You got to get me to there, and then I can relax.
Get you on the water.
I mean, Johnny taught me that when we would go to the beach. I mean, because growing up, I would just have to do something. I got to throw the football. I got to throw the baseball. I got to whatever. But now I can just sit there. I can sit there with the best of them.
In your old age.
In my older age, I guess. So yeah.
Well, that's fun. That counts for sport.
I think so.
Is that on the list?
Fishing?
Yeah.
Yeah. We put fishing on the list.
Oh, was that one that wasn't on fishing and hunting got added?
Yeah. I added it for the rednecks.
Good job.
Yep.
In water polo.
All
right, so this is week 3 of Faith in Sports. This was a fun one because you got to flex your interviewer skills.
Yep.
How do you like being the interviewer as opposed to the interviewee?
I mean, it's fine.
What do you mean it's fine? I feel like you love it. You seem to thrive.
Interviewing people?
Yeah.
How's that?
It's every time you do it, it seems like you really enjoy being the one to craft the questions.
Yeah. And this one I was, because you can't necessarily steer people to answer it, and so, and then when it's live like that, and like one of the things that I did tell them, which I'm like, and both James and David did, is to try not to have rambling answers. Because you got to keep it moving, and then there's some like, man, you give us more, but I didn't want to put them on the spot and say, because they crafted these kind of quick,
right,
and it kept it moving. And
right.
I think and really the gist is what I want. I wanted them to take away of the Institute of Sports, and then I wanted them to take away. Man, we're going to have a partnership with a Christian college that's newer, and they got some challenges because they're newer. It's like anything new that you start, and so but to be able to come alongside of them and to kind of pitch in and to help, like because they're really trying to do it right, and so I think people took away that.
And I think for both of them we were able to hear a bit of their story and obviously their heart, which just led so well into each of those endeavors. So this is week 3. We are considering how should Christians think about and engage with sports. And we were laying out this theology of how you ought to think Christianly, biblically, theologically, and missionally about sports. And really those first 2 weeks was developing a theology of sports. And this is really considering this question was, how will Northland be a part of partnering, a part and partner of redeeming sports for the glory of God, the salvation of the world, and for human flourishing. So really, now that the groundwork was laid the first couple weeks, now how are we endeavoring to put that into practice? And you did that by giving us an overview, a reminder of the faith framework, what we had done. But then you gave us this historic example of redeeming sports with James Naismith. So many awesome quotes. We'll dig into those.
There are so many more. I'm like, but
really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Man, I got to look more up because that was so good.
Yeah.
And then you interviewed James and you interviewed David, and we'll get into each of those.
And one of the things I didn't know, I mean, when you look at it, was towards the end of the 19th century, the 1800s, he invents basketball.
Yeah.
And I remember watching Glory Road, if you've ever seen that movie about the first...
long time ago. Indiana? Oh, no.
No, that's Hoosiers.
Yeah.
But this was
was
in Texas, El Paso, Texas, where first black basketball team play. I mean, so you're only looking at, what, 60s?
Probably.
Yeah. So, I mean, basketball hadn't even been around 100 years yet. And then even in the 30s, so James Naismith goes to Kansas and so basketball was just this, like, it really had only been around from, like, that kind of competitive model for just a couple of decades. And so it doesn't even and then before even James Naismith died, he talked about just how people have like innovated and perfected the sport and the kind of the artistry of it. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, so here's an inventor who doesn't know all of the ways that you could take basketball and make it beautiful and artistic.
It is interesting because just in our lifetime, just that one sport, the amount that basketball has changed, the NBA has changed from the 90s to today.
Yeah.
It's like a different game.
Or, take, so I don't even remember again, I'm not a basketball, aficionado and historian, but it was in 70s or 80s where they added the 3-point line. Like, so, I mean, they started, again, you're innovating and adding to it as well. So, anyways, but it was pretty neat to catch the inventor of basketball in his own words, given his commitment to the Lord.
Yeah, it was great.
So I had been saving him until this last weekend. Yeah,
I thought you tabled him because you had mentioned it. I thought you were going to do it week 1 or 2, and he kept getting left off.
Yeah, but this is when, again, there's so much here in my head. I'm pointing to my head.
Oh, I'm aware.
And then when you start crafting it, you're like, how do you put it together where there's a flow and that you're going somewhere?
Right.
Because there's an arc.
Yeah.
And that's where, to be honest, I get a little frustrated with people. I didn't get any, it was funny. My wife was she was online watching this past weekend, and I guess there was somebody on Facebook, I guess it was at 11, that just said, man, I'm trying to hang with this series. I just can't, and went off. And not went off, but got offline. And, that's unfortunate. Because I get really ticked off about that. As if because you think it's not for you, I'm just going to bail out.
Yeah.
As opposed to being part of a community, and it really is bigger than you. So this is where I want people to grow up spiritually. And that's why one of the reasons why I felt like I had to say from the stage, listen, this is what I normally don't do this. Normally I go to a passage, I read the passage, I explain the passage,
right,
and I can give you more information and more explanation like I always do. And and you also know I try to give you application too, like how does this come out? But man, these are really, really important. These are really important. You can call them TED Talks. They're really important theological discussions.
Yeah.
Because how do you? I mean, I can show you emails. I had a mom email me just overwhelmed that we would want to do this because their 8-year-old who plays competitive sports has been in tears because of the bullying and because of the lack of just any kind of, when I say even moral behavior in sports. 8 years old. And then I got people going, well, I can't hang with this, I ain't getting anything of it. Like, grow up. It ain't always about you, but it is always about what God wants to do in a community. And I had somebody come up, and this is I have so many stories of this past weekend. I had one guy, and this is like, and this was it was joyful for me. Because I've known this guy for the last, probably 1.5 years, maybe 2. God has just really worked in his life, saved his marriage. He is just growing as a person. And he comes up to me. He's like, man, I actually feel like I know what I can do now. He's like, I have an MBA. I can actually mentor these college students who are wanting to get a business degree. I'm like, yes. Yeah. So, because he just pinpointed what we're doing here is that this model of church that is bigger than just one person is for everybody. And so when you have people that check out because they don't, well, it's not for me, you ain't paying attention, man. Like, you ain't paying attention. So, and this is part of where I'm like, how does theology, how does the gospel of redemption, how does it play out in every realm of society? Like, another thought that, just like we did faith and technology, like I would hope that there's a shelf life where people who were here last year, man, they took that to heart and going, man, how am I still stewarding technology? Is it friend or is it foe? Because what I'm probably thinking about even now is that every probably 5, 6, 7 years, I'm going to really cycle them out again because you're going to need to know. Like every 4 years we have an election. Maybe I need to pull out the church in a divided democracy every 4 years. But this is part of where I'm like, man, I just want people to get the vision of why we, in some sense, pause from our normal weekend kind of rhythm and to go, in some sense, deeper into kind of a classroom type setting to apply the gospel into a realm of life.
Yeah.
And I only got, that was the one thing. But I felt like there was a part of me, because even though sports hits most people, I just got the feeling that some people are like, well, this just doesn't really hit me. And, and I get it. Like, maybe it's not the most relevant series for you at this point. And this is where, like, if you came still, I'm grateful, because you ought to be committed to the church, not the message, in the sense of I'm only going to come because I'm going to get something for me. It's kind of like, no, I'm coming to contribute to the overall church because I'm part of the body. That's a theology too. Is that don't forsake the meeting together of the church, So again, regardless of what series we're in.
And I think those listening to Extra Takes faithfully, whether you see the value of sports or not, I think you see the value of what we're teaching, because it can apply to all aspects of life. And I know our listeners are either spiritually mature or wanting to continue their spiritual journey, and that's what we love week in and week out, is just lean into what we're learning. And whether you've played sports all your life and this is your passion and you watch it all the time, or you just like don't even know what a hoop is, right? Like, there is incredible theology and application to our lives, and not just to your own, but your family and friends, and the way that we witness. There's sports is so pervasive.
Well, and in July, I'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how everyone will take it, but we always also do an A&E series, which is arts and entertainment, and so we take some kind of artistry or entertainment. So we've taken Hamilton, which is both art and entertainment. We have taken Inside Out, and those are the two movies, Inside Out 1, Inside Out 2, and looking at emotions through the lens of the gospel. This year, because I did the faith and sports, I'm like, let's just take some sports movies. And I'm actually excited because I haven't done this in any of the A&E series that I've done. Is I'm actually going to show clips. Clips will be the points. So we're looking at the first week that I do this, we're looking at Cinderella Man. About the story of James J. Braddock, and so these are actually true stories. I wanted to pull out true stories on the first. So Cinderella Man, and then Miracle. So the story of the 1980 U.S. Hockey team, and so I'm looking at actually fighting for unity through Miracle.
Okay.
So because the whole. In some sense, the whole premise is trying to get these young people to be on the same team.
Yeah.
And so we're going to look at fighting for unity, and then Cinderella Man, we're going to look at fighting for hope.
I've not seen it.
And so that's why I'm telling people now, we'll see it, because these are really, really good movies. And what we'll do is we'll take that theme that is seen throughout the movie, but we'll actually show that these points throughout the movie are actually biblical truths that are pointed out in Scripture.
Yeah, awesome.
Around unity and around hope.
Yeah.
And then the second week, so I'm actually going to frame them almost like TED Talks and do about 25 minutes on one movie, 25 minutes on the other. And it's going to be moving quick because will have minute, 2 minute clips.
Yeah.
Because and then the other one is Rocky IV and Creed II, because they're the same storyline, but two different generations.
Okay.
So you have Rocky and Drago, and Rocky IV, the fighting the Russian, and then decades later you have Creed II, which Apollo Creed, who was killed by Ivan Drago, his son. And again, these are more fictional characters, but we're going to actually look at the role of pain and suffering. Because it's so good. Now, and so here's why we do it. So here's why we do the A&E series. We'll talk more about this in July. But why we do the A&E series and why we do the TED series is we want to equip Christians today with an understanding of how to engage the culture in a wholesome, biblical, missional, and winsome way. So you take those sports movies, and I'm giving you an understanding of how you actually watch movies from a Christian perspective, and then even how you can have spiritual conversations around the movies you watch. Because if you can start watching movies through the lens of what it truly means to follow Jesus, you will start seeing things in movies that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
And that's part of what I want to do in these A&E series is help you digest and process arts and entertainment in the world in a way that brings about Christian, when I say Christian cultural engagement.
Yeah, and it's really a call to lean into both culture and to the Word. Yeah. Right? Because I think the more we lean into the Word, the more it shapes the way we watch things, right?
Yeah.
And that's all the entire view of cultural engagement. We're not saying you just bury your head in the sand and don't watch anything, right? But how do you work that out? I mean, those are conversations we're constantly considering as parents of young daughters as we're watching movies. Different truths that we can draw out, ask questions, and just kind of see where they're at.
Yeah, and some of the truths, and I'm not looking at these kinds of truths in the A&E series in July, but there are TV series that I watch and other movies where I mean, there's a lot of when I say a lot of depravity, but here's the truth of the matter. In the Bible, there's depravity. And so that's where I like one of my favorite series of all time. I don't mind saying it on the podcast. One of my favorite series of all time is Breaking Bad, about Walter White.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever seen Breaking Bad, but it does go into unpacking the truth that sin will take you further than you want to go. It will cost you more than you want to pay, and it will keep you longer than you wanted to stay.
Yeah.
That is Breaking Bad. And I can see, I mean, here's the thing. I can see where that is the story of so many human beings throughout history, is that they've taken the turn of a Walter White, and it has led them to a place where they would have never wanted to go. But this is what sin does. And so you watch a show like that, and sure, there's an entertainment factor, but there is also this biblical factor of the sin nature of man.
Yep. All right, so let's look at a big takeaway from this series for you.
Big takeaway. So a big takeaway that I have is I've actually seen newer stats on just how bad things are. I did not know. I knew that from an anecdotal.
Yeah.
Anecdotal means just I can see it, and this is what it seems like because I can see it. But where you have data, 70% of kids quitting. The excess of how much we spend on sports and not just youth sports, but sports in general. I mean, it's a $3 trillion industry globally. And then looking at how much we spend on sports entertainment. I mean, like sports is king almost in our culture.
Yeah.
But this is what the fun takeaway was too, is when you look at the sports throughout history and looking at this kind of combination of the Greco-Roman, elements of culture, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, because we can focus on sports, we can focus on entertaining ourselves basically to death, and so therefore we're not really worried about what's happening in politics. We're not really worried what's happening in culture, because as long as we're amused, as long as we're entertained, we're like ostriches with our head, in the sand.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. That's probably the biggest takeaway.
Great. So let's look at James Naismith. A couple quotes I want to pull out. You said there's even more. I'll have to look those up. First one, you said, to win men for the master through the gym. Man, that's in 1889. Holy cow. And then this second one's a little longer, but really like it. You will see the aim of the game is to develop the man and not to make money or even draw a crowd. Develop the man and not to make money or even draw a crowd. And while the latter objects are good, yet I feel that the other ought to be the chief purpose for which the game should be played. So he's saying the chief purpose should be the development. Man, I love that. This is in 1898.
Yeah, that's why I like that picture right there of him just sitting there with some younger kids looking at, what then was a soccer ball, but was going to become a basketball.
Yeah.
And I want to develop. I want to develop young men. And it's not about making money, or it's not about fame.
Yeah. And you had latched on to his quote and kind of used it throughout the message. I want to leave the world a little better than I found it. Yeah.
And it really is, and that's the heart. I don't want to say the heart. That is an element of our Christian faith.
Of the fruit of our faith, yeah.
Yeah, that we are leaving the world just a little bit better than in our world.
Yeah.
So our immediate vicinity. So that's where he's like, I want to leave the world a little bit so wherever he went. He wanted to leave the world a little bit better. So it goes back to Jeremiah 29:7. We are to seek the shalom of the city of Babylon.
Yeah.
And we're to pray for its well-being. For when it prospers, we will prosper. So when we seek to make Babylon just a little bit better, we're actually imaging our king and what he did to leave the world just a little bit better. Because now yes, is the world depraved? Is the world dark? Is the world broken? Is the world fragmented? Is the world heading towards hell? Absolutely. But the little bit better is the glimmer of hope and salvation and redemption. And wherever hope, salvation, and redemption are found, the world just gets a little bit better.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about that quote is when all is said and done, how will the little area of the world that God had me occupy, where He planted me, how will it be? How will the area? So at some point, and this is the sobering reality. At some point, Northland will cease to exist. Churches don't last forever. It's just part of the fallen nature. When that happens, how well will we have left just a little bit of the world? You know? I guess what I loved about that quote is when all is said and done, will the world miss that we were here?
Well, and I think that quote really led well into, at that point, you brought up James and David, and we got to just hear from them and unpack the way God has been leading them, and the way that He's been. Both of them have allowed God to use them, and in really profound ways through sports in different ways. So, first off with James, a couple things I loved about that conversation was he pointed out the rich history that Northland has had when it comes to sports, and so much of what he was doing, previously. He says, we had the what, but we didn't have the why, and I thought that was a great explanation of, the importance of what these last 2 weeks were, and when you lay a foundation like you did, the theology of sports, you don't lay that and then move on. Right? Like, what happens when you lay the foundation for your house? It stays there, and it better be strong, That's the why, right? So it's something that you build on, for the future. So I just love how he pointed that out. We had the what, and if you don't have a strong why, the what will just crumble.
You just keep doing it, and but it's not different. Because this is one of the things I'm trying to tell, as we build out, because I shared, obviously, this past weekend, just once again, what God's building here is bigger than one individual. So we obviously have our church where we connect, cultivate, care, commission, but we also have a nonprofit where we have adults with special needs, and we're engaging single moms, and these are really big initiatives for us, even when I say financially. It costs over $1 million to run both of them. That's pretty big. And then when you look at our cafe, our bookstore, our own educational school called the Cooperative School, and then you have events and rentals, counseling, and now adding this kind of this Institute of Sports. We just don't want to have a cafe just as for the sake of having a cafe. That's not the goal. The goal is to have a cafe that comes under the rule and reign of Jesus, that we actually do cafe business differently. And that doesn't mean that we give food away, because, businesses can't just give everything away and stay in business. Now, can they have a benevolent side? They can. Well, we have a benevolent side called the church, and we have benevolence and all of that, but we have a cafe. But we want it to come under the rule and reign of Christ. We have a school. There's a lot of schools around. But we just don't want to have a school just for the sake of having a school. We don't want to have a hybrid school just for the sake of having a hybrid school. No, we want the teachers to come under the rule and reign of King Jesus. We want them to understand how their faith intersects their teaching. We have a counseling center. Listen, there's a lot of counseling centers out there. I mean, there actually needs more in terms of how big counseling is. But here's the thing: I can promise you this: not all counselors are cut from the same cloth. So we want a counseling center that is under the rule and reign of Christ. How do you counsel to the whole person with a worldview, a biblical worldview and framework of how to kind of intersect their life? So we just don't want it for the sake of having it.
Yeah,
we've got to actually train our people to help them understand how their faith and their work intersect. From even from a church perspective of church people who have who are on church staff to nonprofit and to all of our business endeavors and just for those of you who listen to this is something important that you. So here's how we differentiate our what we call our commerce. So these businesses, bookstore, cafe, our cooperative school, the Institute for Sports, counseling, they have their own budget. So no tithe or offering goes to them. They have to create their own budget, and they have to have at least a break-even budget so that we can continue to sustain what we have, and the goal is to be able to scale many of the things that we have. Mm-hmm. And so that's how we differentiate between the business and the church is that, hey, we're doing business as mission, that, hey, the mission of God can still operate out of these businesses, but we're giving them a business model that has to be self-sustaining.
Yeah, no, the one that we mentioned as a part of that, James is going to be leading the Institute of Sports for Missional Advancement. A couple of those pillars that'll be part of that institute, studios, which will start with that martial arts studio, coaches, training labs and workshops, clinics and camps, even competitive teams, and then international mission trips, and obviously, that partnership with Egypt will be a great one for that, and others. So, which of those do you want to kind of talk more about and highlight?
Well, I can just give you an overall vision because, James and I worked on this. I think my superpower sometimes is given a framework.
Okay.
And so I, after lots of conversations, created this framework and gave it to James and said, basically, is this what we're talking about?
Yeah.
And he's like, yes. So studios, that's the martial arts studio that we would begin with James Fortress Hill. Now, what we're working on with this institute is that we will partner with James, but James also will partner with Northland, and so you can almost look at it in the business world as a joint venture. So James is a Northlander because we wouldn't want studios here that have people lead in the studios that do not buy into this vision of redeeming sports and buy into the vision of what God's doing here at Northland. And again, so he's the one who's leading, overseeing the studio, but in a joint partnership with Northland. And so those will be kind of the studio models as they are developed. And so you might even have like a ballet studio or a dance studio, because those are more in the artistic realm, but also you can double them up even as sport and competition. But those are studios that we could have eventually. And then when you look at the coaches, training labs, and workshops, so this is part of where we want to be a destination where any of the coaches in the surrounding area could come and get a certification on actual coaching to the whole person. Because it's not, we're sure we might have, particularly around recreational coaches, they might even know the technique. And so because actually only 30% of recreational coaches even know the technique of the sport that they're coaching.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure that the training is to coaches around the whole person. Because I can tell you, we had a coach come up to me that's in one of our private schools around here is like, man, this is awesome. I want to be a part of this. Because they're not getting it at their school. And I can promise you, the school that my kids go to, I can't see any kind of training that they're having. And so we like, if we're going to be Christian, by golly, let's be Christian. Like, you know what I'm saying? So we want to have, and then I had somebody who is on the board of FCA and said, hey, we have some of this. Okay, well, great. Well, we'll partner with you with some of the training that you have. But for some reason, it's not getting into the private Christian schools, and for some reason it's not getting into the churches. So you might have this training curriculum, but it ain't getting where it needs to be. So that's coaching and training. So clinics and camps, this is fun because now with our partnership with John Melvin, because you got college coaches and now college athletes over there, so now we can actually partner with them to run clinics and camps.
Yep.
Then, so the competitive teams, now this thing, again, all of this is going to take time. The low-hanging fruit is the studio, starting with the martial arts studio, and then clinics and camps. So those really are the two low-hanging fruit that you're going to see some traction on that between now and the end of the year. Where we have to put more energy and effort in designing and launching is really around the coaches training, labs, and workshops, and then competitive teams and international mission trips. So, but let me paint you the vision of competitive teams. I grew up playing competitive baseball, grew up playing even competitive golf. Now, that wasn't a team, sport. I mean, I just, was taking all of these competitive places, but definitely grew up playing when I was 12, 13, 14. I played competitive baseball, and we traveled basically all over Tennessee, some in Mississippi, and so forth. Well, competitive leagues now are just exponentially bigger and cost more money than competitive, leagues in 30 years ago.
Yeah. The whole different ballgame.
And so what we want to do is we want to say, hey, there's nothing wrong with the competition, nothing wrong with playing AAU or playing in these club competitive leagues and traveling. What is wrong is the idolatrous nature and the excessive spending of this, and the fact that it's not tailoring the competitive arena, particularly those teams, to the whole person.
Yeah.
And so so how do we redeem sports? Okay, how can we develop competitive athletes that maintain the integrity of our Christian distinctiveness without being co-opted into a larger culture where you might experience punishment because you can't make it, on an Easter weekend, or you can't play on Mother's Day. Like, there are people playing on Mother's Day. Okay, so what does it look like to have these competitive teams? Because again, the God's honest truth is only 7% of high school athletes will play college, and only 2% of them will actually get any kind of scholarship. So, so what we want to do is still maintain the priority that you should have, but also being able to be competitive. Yeah. So that's the goal there. So what would it look like for us to have a competitive baseball traveling team? That would play in the world, that would play in the culture. A softball team, a soccer team, a basketball team, a lacrosse team. What would it look like for us to actually have those competitive teams? And so that's the vision there. And then the international mission trips, this would be fun of going, okay, so with our partners, like, starting with the partners that we have, Brazil, they're a huge church. I bet you that they have leagues, they probably call them football leagues, more soccer leagues. But what would it look like for our competitive team to go down there and actually play an exhibition match and to be able to have an international mission trip there? Yeah. What would it look like for us to take a 13, 14, 15-year-old team, take them to Cairo, to their Wadi sports camp, which is in the middle of the desert, which I've never been there. Lord willing, I'll go this year. I was invited.
Okay.
But in the middle of the desert where they have really nice sports camp. So what would it look like to play a baseball team or a soccer team in Cairo? And so using sports now so that the vision is, how can we use sports as a tool for missional advancement? And what is missional advancement? Missional advancement is the formation of the whole individual as we advance the mission of God of redeeming one people from all peoples, to reflect His glory in all spheres of life. So that's the missional advancement, is formation and evangelizing and reaching and engaging the nations with it.
Yeah, so great. So that's the Institute. Let's look at the conversation you had with David with John Melvin University. A couple highlights from that conversation, really things that stood out. I mean, really interesting to hear about baseball and football. It was his life, and he had really reached success in baseball in several ways, but he was empty at 34, going through a divorce, and that story about, he was at a camp and an 8-year-old kid really was able to highlight for him what he was missing. Of any player, who would you put on your team throughout the years? God.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool to hear how God worked through that kid. He didn't really realize the profound nature of it in the moment, but as he was reflecting on it, he can look back and see that as a pivot point. And now, he's been led to start John Melvin University and 3 campuses, and there'll be over 150 students here in the fall, and it's just a really interesting model, hands-on, online learning, but then a kind of a progression towards the last couple of years of hands-on learning, and then on-campus study hall, and then you obviously have the sports focused, and then the chapel every week. So what are your thoughts from just that conversation with David and this budding and new and ongoing partnership now with John Melvin?
Yeah, and when I met David and started to hear the model, it's like I told like I told the church this past weekend. This is something that we were trying to figure out when I was at Wheaton. Now, I was in the graduate program, and so how do you decentralize to kind of the local church? And there was, again, online education and stuff like that. But how do you go and partner? The goal was, how do you partner with the local church and not just the individual?
Yeah.
Because in higher Christian education, you're usually marketing to individuals to come and join your school. Now, if you're part of a denomination like a Methodist or Southern Baptist, you have your kind of seminaries, and if you're at a denominational kind of church, they're feeding you into that denominational entity or kind of educational entity. Well, so when you're non-denominational, church, or you're part of a denominational church that doesn't have good seminaries anymore, how do you decentralize it? And instead of focusing on the individual, won't you go to the churches? Because the churches usually are the ones that have at least some money, So that's what we were trying to figure out at Wheaton. Well, so when I saw this model and went, okay, wow. I know you have schools like Grand Canyon University, Phoenix University, which I know Phoenix isn't a Christian school, but Liberty. Listen, they've been in online education for a long time.
Long time, yeah.
They have perfected it. So you don't want to necessarily compete with them because they have all kinds of degrees.
Yeah.
Okay, but what set this model apart was it was online education with a hybrid element of in-person sports, formation, study hall, Monday motivational gatherings, so forth.
Because most online equals remote.
Yeah. If you're online,
you're around the world.
Full Sail, I heard that Full Sail has 15,000 students online. You're remote wherever you're at. So you do your education online.
Right.
In fact, Ellie started Florida State this past week.
Yeah.
So she has one in-person class, but the other class is online.
Yeah.
All online.
Yeah.
So she does it at her leisure.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, online education is not new. What's new, and so in the business world, there's two concepts. There's red ocean and blue ocean.
Yeah.
So red ocean means like there's shark in the water, there's meat in the water, blood in the water. It's a feeding frenzy, and it's hard to get in the business world market shares.
Yeah.
Well, they have a concept, blue ocean. Well, nobody's out there yet. Well, so what I felt like is that this is a concept that I don't think anybody's out there really yet. It's kind of blue ocean, not the online part, but the in-person part. Now, where I think it's even bigger blue ocean is if you partner with the local church.
Yeah.
Because, and this is one of the things that David actually got to see this past weekend, is that if you have a relationship with the church, that's a pretty decent sized church like Northland, then you have people coming up to you go, I have an MBA, I would love to help. Hey, I have a business, I would love to feed them once a month.
Yeah.
I have, and so you have a natural network of people, of investors, whether they are investing in the education, or investing in feeding, or investing financially. You got them here. And so he even got a taste of that this week, because the other two campuses don't have that.
Right.
So it was really neat for him to see that, in which he already knew. Like, he knew that there's some value and benefit to being on a church campus.
But it's different when they come up to you after service, and So
that's where me coming into play of going, hey, as a pastor, as somebody who has a PhD, as somebody who has been in academia, and who's also played competitive sports, played golf in college. Man, in some cases, you found a really good partner in terms of a pastor who gets this vision. So, and that's where he's actually asked me to help him as much as I want. Like I told people, listen, I already got a job. It's Northland. But because I believe in the next generation, and I actually believe that God is doing something among young people, particularly college-age students, and I believe that is a demographic usually missing in local churches. I'm like, man, I will bend over backwards. So God's honest truth, I will bend over backwards and actually exert even more energy to make sure that Northland can invest in college students. Yeah. And so that's where I feel like his model, and like he would tell you, I'm still trying to figure this out, man. We've been in it 5 years. I wasn't in the academy. Academics wasn't my background. I'm a jock, and so he's brought some people that know academics, but what does it look like to multiply? What does it look like to get more college students? And so this is actually where we do believe that, hey, let's come alongside of John Melvin, help them, but let's make sure that, and this is where I feel like I can help in this regard, is to make sure that we're offering the right degrees, because again, you're not trying to compete with the bigger schools, or particularly other particular industries like engineering or doctor. You're not like, let's focus on what we believe can pump out students through this Christian online in-person sports model. We also think, though, we've talked about this, that in the coming years we could even add a technical side. So we know that technical schools are getting bigger now because of the rise of AI. So plumbing, electrical, welding, all of that. Like, what would it look like to add a hybrid technical model on this? Where they may not play sports, but they want to learn a trade while getting a college education and being spiritually formed. Yeah. So again, we feel like there's a blue ocean here to really get involved and to be able to invest in the lives of college students.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, well said. And And you ended with some next steps, some really practical things for us to pray about, think about. So Northland, just as FYI, will be hosting John Melvin coming up this August. Semester season begins in August. Pray for their accreditation process. That is huge. They are in the kind of the final review phase, and that'll be happening in the next couple months.
Yep.
So that would just be a really, really big, important step forward. Obviously, Northland feeding John Melvin's athletes every Monday night, paired with then investing those motivational Mondays. That will be the Monday night worship gathering. Really exciting to think about just the culture of Monday nights, and Monday nights already has a unique culture, and I think there'll just be all sorts of great opportunities there. And then the Institute, as you said, there'll be really 2 low-hanging fruit for the Institute to start this fall. That's the martial arts studio, and then that is the clinics and camps. Give us time, James and others, to work on the others. So those are the next steps, and I think those are helpful. Some really good prayer points, but also some good FYIs, and then some tangible opportunities for people to engage depending on their skill set.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, and excited about what the Lord's doing. When He gives you a vision, He provides. So if people go back to Believe 2050, okay, so there were 4 big buckets that we would measure.
Yeah.
It would be our main campus and campuses.
Yep.
It would be missional communities and micro churches. So missional communities are those communities trying to seek a demographic that are not going to church. So it could be a book reader demographic. It would be a golf demographic. It could be a fishing demographic. So, but you got mature believers wanting to reach missionally these communities around a hobby.
Yeah.
And then you got micro churches, anything less than 50, that meet the standard requirements of what a New Testament church would be. Okay, so that's the second big bucket. The third big bucket is Mercy Road initiatives. And so right now we got Life Hope Moms, we got Mephibo's House, we got Be the Change Seniors, and we got Mercy High. Be the Change Seniors and Mercy High a little bit smaller than the other 2 entities that we have. And then our commerce entities. Yeah. So a partnership with like John Melvin would be a way that we gauge that. So like even our partnership with ESI, the Ecclesial School, that would be an example. And so we're measuring. That's how we're measuring our impact on the central Florida metro Orlando area. Yeah. And so this is where, when you have those big buckets, it's amazing how God just brings people in your lap and go, here you go. Here's a college that wants to meet at your place. Yep. And they would love for you to invest in them. So.
Well, and I would say, just to add on to that, one of my big takeaways from this series is these 3 weeks will be really great supplemental and training material for sports-based missional communities.
Absolutely.
Right. So there's such an opportunity there. We're going to be starting. Doug's going to be starting one that's focused on golf. We have so many others that are sports-based, whether you're playing youth sports, etc. So it is exciting to see all of this ecosystem working together, and as one is built and is strengthened, it really helps the whole system.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Northland family and friends, hey, I hope your summer is going well. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Extra Takes. Until next week, blessings.
Thanks for listening to Extra Takes. Be sure to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you won't miss a single episode.